All right, everybody, welcome to the Patterson Report Eagles pregame special. I'm Brandon. He's Ryan. We don't have anybody doing this, fancy rock band intro, although I would love to have Luke Combs record our show intro. We're just not quite there yet. Terry Underwood, you too. Hit the line if you're interested.
Hit the line, please.
But that doesn't mean we don't have a great Eagles pregame show. We don't typically do these, but this is no typical week. We have Jason Kelsey making his return as a host this time. We have BDN Nick Foles back in the link for the first time as an Eagles alum, as a retiree, among others. Fletch, kind of a surprise, but he's back. I saw him dishing out Bud Lights at Xfinity Live. All that to be said, an electric night like tonight called for a pregame show, and we were not going to miss the opportunity to do that.
Dude, Philly's just electric. I don't know if you saw this past week. I'm bummed I wasn't in Philly. Conor McGregor was handing out beer at Chicky and Pete's. What was going on? There's just something special about this city, man.
It's been crazy this week. Have you been seeing the clips today of just Jason's gone full Pat McAfee today, and I love it. It's awesome. I mean, he was hitting the jerk I saw, dancing in the South Philly tuxedo. I mean, just the suede sweatsuit with the Italian logo. Dude couldn't be. I don't think Jason's Italian, but who cares?
Doesn't matter. He can do whatever he wants. Keys to the city, long time ago.
I can't. Ironically enough, I think the only other athlete with the level of keys to the city as Jason Kelsey is the guy we're honoring tonight as an honorary Eagle, and that's Nick Foles. I mean, those two guys, I'm pretty sure, could ask for just about anything they wanted. They could rename Patterson Ave if they wanted to rename it Kelsey Ave, Foles Ave, Big Dick Nick Boulevard, whatever the hell you want to make it. I think they can make that kind of stuff happen. They're that big.
I think they're the only two, and I think Bryce is in a third, but it's not close right now. He's getting there. He's third though.
On field, I mean, the accomplishments are there, but Bryce doesn't quite have that Philly vibe off the field. He's body of the temple. Pretty sure he might be Mormon. Not sure if I'm speaking out of turn there or not, but Jason slamming beers on television, he's roasting gators, he's us on and off the field.
Yeah, he's ridiculous, and we love him for it. I'm I said, I'm sad we didn't see him there on last Friday against the Packers, but I'm glad he's preserving his body, and of course, he's still in there. That interview with Hurts, I got to watch that. That was awesome,
dude. Just hurt. I mean, to get any kind of emotion out of Hurts is a monumental feat in and of itself, but that uncalled for, unprompted, I love you, man, at the end, I was just clutching my pearls.
That got me.
Be still my heart. It's those two dudes should have. It's a shame they don't have a ring together. That bond should have been cemented with a ring.
I wonder why we didn't get one.
Well, a little bit of James Bradbury and a whole lot of the NFL, but that's not even here nor there. We're enjoying the present. I was talking to I was talking to one of my friends, and I tweeted it out because I liked it. Not doing too well. One like so far. Nevertheless, tonight has Minnesota NFC Championship game vibes. It has anybody could get it kind of vibes
tonight. The city gets like that. I don't know if I got to talk about it much on the show, but I was there for Cassie's walk off, and the city's just. It feels different in that sports complex than anywhere else. You could have told me, I didn't know a thing about baseball. You could have said, hey, this is the NLCS or the World Series. I'd be like, okay, I believe it. I would have believed it. Honestly, the city's just on a whole different level, and it's a fantastic time to be a sports fan in that city. So
we've had 3 great falls lately. And you forget, because these Phillies were so bad for so long, you forgot how magical it was. And I was worried that after that first magical fall, it would have lost a little bit of the speed, a little bit of the fastball. But with every year, it's almost compounded. And I mean, for me to say tonight feels like the NFC Championship game, not in the weight of the game, but just in the feel around the city. That's how much Philly is buzzing right now.
It's
In
buzzing.
no small part due to Jason and Nick Foles' return. I would argue the game is almost second fiddle.
Which it shouldn't be, because we can't look past the Falcons. I know they were kind of a disaster last week against the Steelers, but the Eagles need this win. We need this. I was looking at our schedule the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans, they're the best team in football right now. When did that happen? I couldn't tell you. Clint Kubiak's going to get an endless amount of duffel bags thrown him at the end of the season, become someone's head coach. Like, he's been great down there. Tampa just came off a big win in Detroit. We have them week 4. So, like, this is a really big game for the Eagles. Like, I know the Falcons are kind of overlooked because Kirk Cousins, who knows what's on with his leg. I mean, he was in the shotgun and pistol 96% of the time last week. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Drake London didn't perform. Bijan looks great. We're going to have to keep him in check tonight. That's going to be priority number 1, make Kirk Cousins throw the football, because Bijan looked great last week. And, like,
don't let him bail you.
It feels like Philly any way they want, but, like, Atlanta's sneaky good, and I think everyone forgot about that after 1 week of football. But like I said, a absolute tough schedule coming up, because the Saints and the Bucks, I know we down talk the NFC South, and of course the one team just benched their quarterback today. That's a whole story for another day. But the NFC South's looking pretty decent right now, especially if the Falcons can rebound. So we can't look past that division, as we have them all on the schedule this year. So
no, I mean, there's a reason that the betting line's only, I think, 3.5. I haven't checked in the last few hours, but it was 3.5 this afternoon.
for next week?
No, for tonight.
I thought it was 6.5.
I don't think so. I could be wrong. It was 3.5 not very long ago. Anyway, I mean, there's a reason.
If that's the case, I got to go hammer that right now. If I'm being totally honest, if I go quiet for a second, I'm hitting a money line bet or a spread bet.
Falcons versus Eagles line. Yeah, let's see what the 5.
Okay, I'll be using my FanDuel boost to bet on that one. But anyway,
so yeah, these are two. I mean, right now they're two somewhat evenly matched teams. I mean, there's no doubt both teams are going to try and live and die through the running game. You got Bijan on one side, Barkley on the other. Eagles don't have A.J. Brown tonight. But again, that's why you go out and get Jahan Dotson, because he can step in and be a 2 in a pinch. I think everybody's expecting Devontae Smith to have a big game. The name I haven't heard enough is Dallas Goedert. And look, he's taken a bit of a back seat the last couple of years because you have 2 number 1 wide receivers. People forget how Dallas Goedert was in top 5 tight end conversations maybe 2 to 3 seasons ago. So he can still step up and be a huge piece of the offense. But it's going to be a battle, I think. And the Eagles' defense has to show me a little bit more. Devin White inactive. What's the deal with that? There's some things to look out for.
I mean, there is some things to look out for, and I was writing about this past week. I don't know if it was because it's Arthur Smith or it was Justin Fields, but I got to dig into the passing chart a little bit, and they did not target the middle of the field at all. And Arthur Smith came out post-game and said that was, totally 100% intentional, because Jesse Bates was just roaming the middle of the field. And, like, obviously he's amazing, but that's like the highest compliment you could give, is just not targeting their area at all, and then saying it was on purpose. And he coached the guy for, I don't know, what was it, 2-3 years? So, like, it's not going to be tough, or it's going to be tough getting the ball through the air here, and especially without A.J. Brown. It's going to be tougher than we expect, but, Dotson needs to step up. Goddard needs to step up. Devontae Smith is, oh gosh, I forget how much the percentage of the money's on this over. I think on Underdog it's 94% on the over.
Mm-hmm. Average receiving totals.
Yeah. So, like, everyone's hammering that tonight. So when that happens, it kind of feels like a trap spot coming from a gambling perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone's on it, and they're gonna devote all their resources to stopping them. But, like, you got to stop Saquon Barkley, and it's not an easy task to do that. As we saw the Packers last week, obviously Jonathan Taylor performed well against them this week, so maybe the run defense isn't 100% there.
Mm-hmm.
But still, like, dude's an animal, and I'm excited that I got to enjoy NFL Red Zone 2 Sundays in a row.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to worry about it until Monday. which is always super nice. But within the game itself, because I want to get to, before we close it out, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Nick Foles coming back. But I think you're going to need a better version of Jalen Hurts tonight than you got week one. The decision making wasn't really there, I didn't think, and he's going to have to be a lot craftier. I think of some of the big chunk plays they had week one. It was short, pretty safe throws to A.J. Brown and then let him kind of break that. I love Devontae Smith. I mean, he's a number one receiver on a ton of teams. He's an incredible route runner. He's not the physical force that A.J. Brown is, where he's running three tacklers. So you got to win different. You have to make pinpoint throws. He's going to be open. He's going to make the catches, but Hurts has to be a lot more decisive and accurate with Devontae Smith than you do with A.J.
Brown. I totally agree with you. It's like I said, it's not going to be the easiest. I'm happy it's just a minor injury because I don't know if you checked NFL injury reports lately, but oh my gosh, dude, it's piling up everywhere. So
yeah, we're lucky we're as healthy as we are.
Yeah, the Eagles made it out of Brazil lucky just to get A.J. Brown out for hopefully just 1 week. I don't know if it's going to linger or anything. I mean, hammies are never fun, but
yeah, hopefully it's quick. Like I said, we have a bit of a gauntlet schedule coming up here. But we're living in the moment. Tonight is a huge night, and it is because Nick Foles is officially retiring as an Eagle tonight. I believe there'll be some kind of ceremony pregame. What do you think? What should we be expecting as far as a gesture on the Eagles' behalf? Could it be something as small as, I've heard players getting like a golf bag or whatever. Could we potentially be talking, a surprise, Ring of Honor thing? What's the scale you think of?
I think you got to pump it up to Ring of Honor. I think he deserves it. That was an absolutely magical run that none of us are ever going to forget. I remember, oh gosh, who was it against? The Raiders in the regular season? Everyone's like, oh no.
Yeah, because he started off that was his first full game he played, I think, because Carson got hurt against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
So the Raiders was Nick's first start, and he looked bad. He looked great.
Good. It was not good. I think a lot of people don't remember that. The start being as rocky as it was. I know the Atlanta game was it was okay. It wasn't his worst game. It wasn't his best game. And then the Minnesota game. And then, of course, the game against the Patriots, where it was just the rest is history at this point. So, I mean, I'm one of those people where you can just give him the key to the city.
Retire the jersey.
I don't know if I'm there yet.
Isn't 5 retired?
I think it's unofficially. I'm not.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I would argue that Nick Foles has done more for the franchise than Donovan McNabb.
You're not going to hear any arguments against that from me. I mean, you're not wrong, but at the same time, I think it takes a lot to retire a jersey.
I agree, but
he did give us a lot, and at the same time,
and you've already opened the door with, like I said, McNabb, who, I mean, look, on the field, he was a really good Eagles quarterback. Never won the big game. Off the field, trashed the franchise on a couple of occasions. Couple of DUIs, pretty much, he had a 4 or 5 year span where he was just a complete nightmare, which I know shouldn't matter for on the field stuff, but I'm just saying, if we can get 5 even unofficially retired or Ring of Honor or something, I mean, Nick's got to be a shoe-in.
I mean, for all that he gave, and he saved our butts countless of times. And I go back and I look at his run with the Eagles. I think there could have been a second Super Bowl if Alshon Jeffrey did not drop that ball against the Saints. I primarily think he could have had another one.
Yeah.
So it's just give him whatever he wants, man. There's not much more I need to say because he's an absolute legend to the franchise. And, looking back on his career, anyone's only going to remember that run. They're not going to remember his time with the Rams or the Chiefs or even his first stint with Chip Kelly where he had that, 2 interception season? I forget how many touchdowns he threw exactly, but it was an insane touchdown interception ratio. No one remembers any of that. When you bring up Nick Foles, it is those 3 to 4 games right there in the playoffs And maybe, Eagles fans remember the first one before that, but like in the regular season. But it's those playoff games. It's how anyone always remembers him. No one hates the guy. Like,
no.
You look around there's a lot of players, the couple haters, like, a lot of guys really likable in the league right now. And I'm not hating on anyone except people who destroy my props. I'm kidding. But anyway,
I think it's fair to hate Deshaun Watson. You can hate him.
Well, that's an exception. That's the exception to the rule where it's like, okay, he's honestly,
you're allowed to.
Yeah, he's not a good person, and everyone knows, but like, no one hates Nick Foles. He's a great guy. I mean, just like Jason Kelce, like the Eagles have a lot of really likable dudes, and it's really weird the media's perception of the Eagles because it's because of us. I know.
Yeah,
it's not because of the players. Because like everyone looks, they're like, oh, I love Jason Kelce. Oh, I love Nick Foles. Saquon Barkley's awesome, except Giants fans, of course. But
Yeah, it's really just the fans, though. I mean, even the fans, I think, lately have been getting more understood by the media. I mean, like other fan bases still despise us. We just won most annoying fan base in the NFL again, which is a badge of honor, I think. People shouldn't come to your stadium and feel comfortable. I'm sorry. Like, take that shit out to LA or something, or Las Vegas.
Dude, it was so funny. It was a Jets fan on Monday Night Football. I don't know if you were watching the game against the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a Jets fan sandwiched between two 49ers fans, and they stood on the shot for like 15 to 20 seconds, and they were just giving them it. It was so funny. Like it was all in good fun, but they were just like,
yeah, that's how it should be.
They were capitalizing on that man's bad night, and like,
yeah, that's exactly how it should be. But I think overall, I mean, the Eagles organization, I've always heard, is a model of how things should be run from the media perspective. So I mean, that moniker is starting to go away. It's because of that Super Bowl team and guys like Laurie and Roseman. But if you had to get it back to Foles before we wrap this up, Ryan and I don't want to miss the pregame either, so we're going to get out of here by 8 for sure. When you think back at the entirety of Nick Foles' career, what sticks out to you? Like what's the play you'll always remember? The game, maybe. But what's the lasting image of Nick Foles as an Eagle?
Oh my gosh, dude, this is. I should have wore the shirt. The shirt's in the closet. You know exactly what I'm gonna say. It's the Philly special, man. Like
it is.
It's just such an imprint on everyone's brain. Like you're gonna look back on football like 40, 30 years from now. Everyone's gonna remember that play. It was just so iconic, and it just put a stamp on everything. And of course, teams have tried to run it since then, and varying results of difficulty, but it's when they run it, it's the Philly special. It's the Philly special for a reason. And like, at least fans of the franchise are going to remember the conversation that he had with Doug. He's like, "You want Philly?" And then
that's
the rest
what people don't appreciate. It was his call. Nick Foles was the backup quarterback in the Super Bowl. He went to his head coach.
That is the coolest thing ever.
And he went, "Hey, I got an idea." And he said, "Do you want to do this?" And you can see the coolest part is you see Doug sit there in silence and go, "Fuck!" Like it was like,
"Oh my god, we're gonna do this."
Yeah, he's like, "Let's do it." God, there's a meme and I'm blanking on it. I forget what show it's from. But it was like, "You son of a bitch, I'm in," and that was Doug.
I know what you're talking about. It's Rick and Morty.
Yes,
it's Morty.
Yeah, it's Morty with the finger.
Yeah.
And that was Doug. He was like, "This dude's crazy. Let's do it." And it worked.
It's the lasting impact. I mean, I have his book over here. I'm still
Me too.
I got to get through it in full. Like I pick it up and then read it, put it down, and then I don't touch it for a while. So I got to read it in full one of these times because
which one do you? The Peterson book or the Nick Foles book?
Yeah. My man was through the ringer. He was going to quit football. I'm like...
I asked you which book it was, and you said, yeah.
Oh, it's Believe It.
Which one?
Believe It. The Super Bowl one.
Okay. I read the Underdog one, which was the Doug Peterson version.
I didn't know there was two. I had the Nick Foles version. Like I was too busy getting into a tangent that man was going to quit football. I forget what stint it was after. I think
it was after the Rams. Yeah, it was after the Rams. The only time he was going to quit, and he had already been with Andy in Philly. So the only person he would have come back to play for was Andy. and he said, "Hey, look, we need a backup. Come to KC, see if you still love football or not. Give us a year and see if you love it again." Went to KC, and then we needed a backup. And Doug had just come from Kansas City, so Andy Reid kind of bounced. He was like, "Look, if you like playing here, you got to go back to Philly. Go play for Doug." And then the rest is kind of history. But we owe Andy Reid a part of that Super Bowl, not only because he kept Nick Foles from retiring, but again, Foles was a backup that year in KC. He didn't really find the love for football again. But for Andy to kind of say, "Look, this is the next step now. You need to go here." We wouldn't be having this conversation otherwise.
Yeah, I'm glad we got one. Now Andy has
Great.
feels like endless at this point. It feels like he's gonna win another one this year. So I'm glad we got one, and of course it would have been nice to get the second one, but
didn't hurt as bad because you had one.
It's so nice to look back on. You don't realize how hard it is to win a Super Bowl till you won one, and then you hear people complaining about it.
Yeah. I think for me, the Philly special is immortalized forever. There's a statue of it outside the stadium for crying out. I mean, what team has a fired head coach and a backup quarterback on a statue? But I think for me, the moment where I was the most proud of Nick Foles being my quarterback was that play was a trick play, and it was really well thought out and won. He went toe to toe with Tom Brady all over and over and over and over again in that game, and just kept coming out on top or as good as the greatest quarterback to probably ever play the game. And it's so cool to see a guy that was almost out of the league, backup quarterback, just be able to find that magic for long enough to outduel Tom Brady. That was one of those moments where I was just watching him go, and I was 19 or 20 at the time. And you're watching a guy who I think was probably 29 or 30, and I'm cheering him on like he's my son, because but he had that feeling of look at him go, he's really doing it. Oh my God, he's really doing it.
I think what Nick Foles did is absolutely incredible, because nobody talks about the game that Tom Brady had. I was looking for the box score here just so I get the right numbers. This man had 505 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, and nobody remembers a lick of it because of Nick Foles and what he did on that field.
And think of some of the throws he had to make in that game. That Corey Clement throw, the degree of difficulty on that was 110. I mean, Corey Clement wasn't open. And there's a great interview with it was Chris Long on the Green Light Pod, and they talked about that play in particular. And Nick said, he said, I had 2 other looks on that play that were much safer and much more open. He said, I had a hunch that I could get it over the top to Corey, who's a rookie. I forgot he was a rookie that year. And it just goes to show, the carelessness in the best way that Nick played with. And I wish Jalen played with a little bit more of it, especially the last couple of years. But just to have that intuition of there's 2 guys open for a check down, but I got a hunch I can squeeze this thing in. Same thing with the Torrey Smith ball. I mean, that Torrey Smith ball against Minnesota, he wasn't open. And, he hit a throw that only a couple guys, you're talking, the Tom Brady's, Drew Brees, of this era. You're talking about guys who can make a throw in that window. You have to add Nick Foles to that list. It's really unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I do want to double down on that with the aggressiveness. You need to see that more and more. I know we saw that in the Super Bowl when the Eagles went there last time against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, because you have to score points against these guys. And that's what Doug and Nick went into the game with. They went into the game we're going to have to score 50 points because Tom Brady's the best ever play the sport, and Bill Belichick's the best coach ever. So we're going to have to lay it all out on the line, and we're going to have to make some stupid, reckless decisions. And they did, and now they're forever immortalized in that city. So,
they played to win. I think one of the things that bugged me, and you'll remember the play on the moment I'm talking about, I thought in that Super Bowl against Kansas City, I thought there were moments where Nick Sirianni played not to lose. There was that big spot where I think it was 4th and 1, and the Eagles had always gone for it on 4th and 1, but we were in field goal range. No, we punted. I think we were on our own side of the 50. It might have been the 40, 4th and 1. The analytics say to punt, but you can't give Pat Mahomes that ball back. But if you punt when you're playing not to make a mistake. what was cool about Doug and Nick is they always played to win, not to lose. And I mean, that's the biggest difference. I mean, look, there were moments where it was stupid. Nick had his share of turnovers. Like, that's kind of the book on Nick Foles. He was a little bit Brett Favre-esque in that there were moments he trusted his arm too much and he'd burn you. But at least he trusted his arm. I think there's a little bit too much of Jalen not wanting to make a mistake, Nick not wanting to make a mistake to where it's 10-yard throws over the middle. It's the screens. It's the checkdowns. It's the hope for the run after the catch. And I do miss a little bit of that reckless abandon that Doug and Nick played with.
Well, it is also a new era of NFL. It feels like we're entering, or we're firmly in it. Like, teams are playing a lot of too high safeties. They just never really done that in the past to prevent all these big plays. And like, that's why I don't see it as much. Scoring's down, passing yards are down this year. Like, it's a new way of playing football. So like, it won't surprise me if we see teams transition back to the run, and look at that, how he invests in an all-pro running back and Saquon Barkley when the league, is trending a little bit the other way. He makes a big investment that way. So like, it's one of those things where the NFL is always changing. So we may never see that type of stuff again. Like, Mahomes' air yards this past week were like 3 yards. He did have that big touchdown, but like, that was it. Like, these defenses are trying to cue in a lot more on these big plays. So, they still happen, of course, because it's the nature of the sport. But like, if you look at the numbers, they're slowly on a down slope with that play style. So we'll see how that evolves. But like,
well,
we may never see that again.
Yeah, it's the defenses for sure, and this will be we'll have to get off here pretty quickly. But it's also the coaches. I mean, you look at all these young coaches, and so. Remember when that hiring spree of Sean McVay had a hiring tree, and he's at the point he was like early.
You had coffee with Sean McVay. You are qualified. I remember that.
But look at the amount of West Coast offenses that came out of that spree. All these young guys want to run the quick fire West Coast scheme, and that's not a big play offense. So it's a little bit of that and a little bit of the switch to two high safety on the defense.
It's definitely that. And it's interesting because, the Saints are chucking the deep ball now, which I find hilarious. So we're going to talk about them this week. And, it's going to be a very nice and loaded conversation because, like I said, they look like the best team in football, but we can't look past the Atlanta Falcons, even though they didn't look good this past week. Kirk Cousins, he could be a little bit more healed, or, it could have been the offensive game plan wasn't meshing with Kirk Cousins. He has to learn the game speeds, the receivers and everything. It's, everything's different in an actual game setting. So we shall see. But I'm excited for the night. Eagles buy however they want. It's one of those nights. I wish I was in the city. I bet you do as well.
Yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers down there. Kelsey was tailgating at what? 3:30?
He's been out there since I think like noon.
I thought it was like 3, but like still.
Well,
either one of those numbers are crazy. So like,
I think he's been on air since 3. There was clips of him at barbecues sooner than that.
Dude's an animal. I love him.
He is. Go Birds. Go Jason Kelsey. Shout out Big Dick Nick. We'll see you on Thursday on the Patson Report. I'm Brandon. He's Ryan. Go Birds.